We finished up chapter 15 last time. So, now we're in 16. It's the pouring out of the 7 bowls of wrath, or vials of wrath, depending on which version you read. Now at this point, the rapture has already taken place. The ones who have obtained victory over the beast and not taken his mark or his number or his name, they're now with God in the throne room in chapter 15, according to chapter 15. And this is the final judgment, the last 30 days of the beast's reign here on earth, Antichrist. All right, start off with reading verses 1 and 2.
And I heard a great, is this one? And I heard a great voice out of the temple saying to the 7 angels, Go your way and pour out the vials of the wrath to God upon the earth. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and a grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worship his image.
Okay. Is there any technical problems you need to address right now?
Sorry, no, I just forgot to flip the switch on over there.
Okay.
And you weren't loud enough, I wanted to kick you up a smidge.
Yeah, I do talk softly. I need to. Well, as was pointed out last week, God's judgment upon Egypt while Israel was captive is a foreshadowing of the end times. And what I've found is that a number of the plagues that came down on Egypt are found near the 7 vials of wrath. For instance, these great sores that fell upon men, that's very similar, at least, to plague number 6, where many boils fell upon the Egyptians, whereas Israel was kept clean. All right. Now, verses 3 and 4.
Before you go any further, I want to everybody hear the definition of what it says here. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying to the 7 angels, Go your way and pour out the vials of the wrath of God upon earth. The first went out and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sword upon the men that what?
And the mark of the beast.
Had the mark. Only the men that had the mark, which worshipped the image. Now, what does that mean, that the noisome and grievous? Okay, the noisome means, first of all, it was a sword. And it was a sword that, listen, it was so noxious and so disgusting, and offensive smell, disgusting odor. So, in other words, it was literally rotten. Did anybody ever walk into a hospital where somebody is filled with cancer and they like hold your that stink, because see, they're rotting inside, and that's just what's going on here. They have these sores now. Do you think they're just going to be a little dime, or how big do you think they're going to be?
They're going to be big, and they're going to be open and gross. They're going to be probably all over their body. It's just going to be, their bodies are just going to be totally.
Who would be a good example of that? Somebody in the Bible.
Lazarus. Or, not Lazarus.
He actually said
Oh, Job.
Yeah,
Scraped his sores.
yeah, Job.
He sat naked, scraping these sores, and pus just oozing out of him. And but these here is so severe. It says it's severe pain of suffering and sorrow. So can you imagine? You got him on your high heel. You can't sit. You try to lay down. You can't lay down. Anybody ever cut yourself and you have a sore, and it seems like everybody will touch you right where that's cut is.
Even
Their foot or whatever. So sensitive to everything. But every person's got to realize, uh-oh.
yeah, even if it's a tiny sore, the major pain that comes from a tiny sore, and just
What about a little pimple? Anybody ever get a little pimple and you didn't even see the pimple, but you felt the pimple, and you put your hand there. I just had one on my leg here the other day, hair. I said, I felt it. I went down. I said, oh.
Yeah, I've had things like that right there on the side of my nose.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very, very sensitive, and I can just feel the swelling and the pressure because there's all this mass that my skin can't, it just stretches out the skin. It's just one little spot.
But can you imagine?
Yeah.
And these things, I also believe they're going to be so big they're going to be touching one another. And they're going to be oozing. Sores, oozing. And it's rotten meat, because that's why they stink. They're rotten. It's eating them up like leprosy. So you see, remember it said, go your way and pour out the vows of the wrath of God upon the earth. So he's already starting upon it. You took 666, now here's what you get for it. Go ahead.
Okay. As I was saying, this judgment, similar to Plague 6, poured out on Egypt, which is the plague of boils. Now read verses 3 and 4, which is vials 2 and 3.
And the second angel poured out his vial upon the sea, and it became as the blood of a dead man, and every living soul died in the sea. And the third angel poured out his vial upon the rivers and fountains of water, and they became blood.
Okay. So what does that remind you of?
Moses touching the water.
Yeah, touching the Nile River. That was the first plague. And this is, now what's fascinating, it's two vials, or bowls, whichever, and yet they do pretty much the same thing. Why do you suppose this was divided up into two judgments?
Very simple. So just look what two different types of water is. Anybody drink salt
Sea to
water?
blood and rivers to blood. Sea to blood and rivers to blood.
Yeah.
What did you ask? I didn't answer
Read
it.
it again.
Well, what I asked was,
Why two different?
it's pretty much the same thing, water and the blood, and yet it's two different bowls. So why do you suppose it was divided up that way?
This, everybody look up here. If only the salt water of the earth was turned to blood, it'd be no big deal.
Oh.
Okay, because if you get thirsty, you don't drink salt water. But when it hits your drinking water,
Okay.
the rivers,
Okay.
what do you drink now? This is why they wrote, the Bible says, God gave them blood to drink. That blood was not liquid, it was clotted blood.
Right.
Yeah, and it ties in, it ties in with chapter 17, where it talks about the great harlot drinking from the cup, and it's supposed to represent the blood of the martyrs and all that other thing, all that other stuff. It's, I mean, you get a real sense of sowing and reaping here. Okay. Verses 5, 6, and 7. Continue.
And I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord,
which art and was and shall be, because thou hast judged us. For they have shed the blood of saints and prophets, and thou hast given them blood to drink, for they are worthy. And I heard another out of the altar say, Even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments.
Yeah. It says here in the last part of verse 6 says, for they are worthy to drink blood. In other words, this is their just due. This is the harvest. This is the harvest they have reaped because of the seeds they've sown. They've thrown their support behind the devil, the dragon, who has slain all these saints. And now they're getting their just due. And furthermore, it says, even so, Lord God Almighty, true and righteous are thy judgments. These are righteous judgments. As horrible as they are, they're also righteous. Which really makes you realize just how serious and how wicked these people are at this point in time. That's very sobering, and very scary too. It's why we always need to pursue the presence of God and understand what He wants and know what He wants. If we get comfortable, we become overconfident, and we may just unknowingly start doing things that God doesn't want us to do. So.
Okay, one more thing. Esau and Jacob. Rabbi Ed did a good teaching on this one time. Whenever he was out in the field, he came in to his brother Jacob, and he wanted the blood to drink. This is what's called the blood portage. So he drank the blood, and nobody could drink the blood. That's why he lost his birthright. He was cursed. So, but do you believe people drink blood today?
Yeah.
Atheists,
Not atheists.
satanic worshipers.
No. In the butcher house, even when they're as a kid and so forth, all the old farmers and so forth, whenever they stuck the hog or the cow and so forth, they all drank blood.
Oh, gross.
And they still have yet to this day blood pudding.
You're not
One of
supposed
my
to drink
dads-
the blood.
One of my dad's relatives took one of the animals and just drank the blood.
Yeah, I remember the Bible talks about how you have to slit the animal's throat as opposed to strangling the animal. That's why. The reason why is that you couldn't eat bloody meat. You had to get the blood out first. If you strangle the animal, all the blood stays in.
Well, that's the Jewish kosher kind of eating. That's what they have a clean cut. And is that what you were saying?
In other words, they can't even have blood on the knife. It's going to be so clean and so forth. You got to remember, the Bible says that life is in the what?
Blood.
So satanic people and so forth, this is why they're so quick to have blood. You go to Africa, and they're always, when they're milking their cows or goats and so forth, they'll get their milk and they'll stick a vein and mix the blood with the milk. So when we was in the Philippines, these guys in there would kill people and so forth. And one guy came in our camp and so forth, he said, blood's good, human blood, this blood. So, like Brother Michael said, these are going to be demon-possessed people. So everything's going to be about the blood, the blood, the blood, the blood. How many of you know that's what we base our salvation on? What did you sing over here? What? That's right. So, they want the blood. He said, okay, you like blood? You got blood. But it's not going to be liquefied. You're going to have to literally chew it and swallow it and stuff it down your throat.
Okay. Verses 8 and 9.
And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and the power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with a great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which hath power over these plagues. And they repented not to give him glory.
That's fascinating. You know, here they are in all this great suffering, and yet they refuse to beg for mercy. You know, they refuse to do apparently what they know they have to do to make it stop. But as Brother Humphrey says, these are, at this point, demon-possessed, and Satan is in control, and they just are simply not doing what makes sense. Yeah. I also looked up scorched in a concordance. The only other place in the Bible where I found the word was in the parable of the soils, where it talked about the seeds that fell on rocky soil. They sprang up quickly, the sun scorched them, withered away. That's probably not relevant, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. Okay. Verses 10 and 11.
Let me go back to those two verses. And the fourth angel poured out his vial on the what?
On the sun.
On the sun, and power is given unto him to scorch men with fire. Scorch. Okay, so the sun's going to get so hot that it's going to scorch men. What temperature does it take to scorch a piece of clothes or to burn a piece of flesh? What is the point of ignition for fire? How hot does fire have to be before something starts to burn? Come on! So everybody say 240 degrees.
240 degrees.
So in other words, if you think it's hot at 120, try 240. So the sun is going to be so hot that if you get in the sun, it's going to scorch you. Listen, there's many stories about people out in the desert and so forth that could actually fry eggs on their hood. And that was only 140 degrees. Well, what's going to happen if it's 240? Instantly brown. How many of you ever go to a restaurant and so forth? It makes me mad when I get my eggs, and my eggs are fried, brown and hard and so forth. I like my eggs, when you take your fork and just cut right through them. So when they bring those eggs out there like that, I always say, it's too hot. Turn your grill down, it's too hot. So if you put a piece of meat in your frying pan or whatever, and instantly it goes brown and hard. Yeah. It can turn brown and hard and still be bloody inside. So people just going out in the sun. Why do you think they're going to try to run to the rocks and caves and so forth and hide from the wrath of God? Jesus talks about that. They're going to try to flee from his wrath. So they're thirsty, everything's blood, and if you go out to the rivers, to the ocean to get it, now the sun's so hot, and how many ever see California, different places now where the drought is, what's the ground look like? The ground is nothing but what? Great big cracks. So all the trees are dead and everything. So if the sun is so hot, if there was any grass, which would be dead, what's it going to do? Burn. So if there's any wood, it's going to burn. Everything is going to burn. You want hell, you got it.
Okay. Verses 10 and 11.
And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain, and blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds.
This is in Exodus, the 9th plague was a plague of darkness, and the Bible specifically says, like, this darkness was so thick they could actually feel it. But this sounds a lot worse, because there was no mention of any. What does it say? It says they gnawed on their tongues because of the pain. Apparently, this darkness that's so heavy and so compressing. I mean, it's like I'm envisioning like two black gloves just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing. It's like that's just the picture that I'm getting. This is a really huge squeeze, like they're being so compressed by the darkness all around. It also brings to mind. I'm sure you all know about the parable of the talents. The fate of the servant that didn't do anything with his talent. He was thrown out into the outer darkness, where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth, which is what's being described here in verses 10 and 11. You know, the gnawing on their tongues. I'm sure gnashing of teeth is synonymous with that. Yes, I'm quite certain. Also in 2 Peter, when he talks about the fate of false teachers, he says the blackest of darkness is being reserved for them.
Mm.
Have any of you read Mary Kay Baxter's A Divine Revelation of Hell? Well, she is, well, if her account of hell is to be believed, there are different sections of hell. There are various degrees of punishment, and one area she says she was sown was just a place of blackness, where she couldn't see anything. All she heard were a bunch of screams, and you know, and God says this is where the false prophets are. You know, just a lot of screaming and gnashing of teeth as they are just compressed by the darkness of that section of hell. Okay.
I want to go a little bit deeper into that verse there. And let's read it one more time. And the 15th angel poured out his vial upon the seat of what?
The beast.
Who's the beast?
The Antichrist.
Antichrist. So God is zeroing in now on the kingdom of the Antichrist. The seat, the 15th angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness. And they gnawed their tongue for pain because of darkness. Then verse 11, and blasphemed the God of heaven because of their what? What's the next word? What's it say?
Pains and their
Pains,
sores.
pains. Not pain, pains. So one pain, then he even describes it here, their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deed. How many of you ever had two different problems in your body, you had two different pains at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I going down to Arizona. I was going down to Arizona preaching. And I got a toothache. It got abscessed.
Yeah.
It did not hurt here. I mean, I had pain there, but that's not where the pain really settled. It was in my head. And I would squeeze my head and beat my head against the window, trying to get some relief of that pain. And we got down to Arizona, the pastor, he took me straight to his dentist, and he said, well, we'll get you ready here, we'll prep. I said, don't do nothing. I said, just pull it. He said, you got to do it. I said, just pull it. He pulled that tooth with nothing. The pain of him pulling it wasn't nothing compared to the pain. And I asked him, I said, why am I having pain coming up on top of my head? He says, because the pain has nerves that runs all through your body. And he said, it's settled in top of your head. So, a lot of these people, they have an acupuncture where if you have a pain, they can punch you. So, if you have a sore here, it could hurt over here, but all these other pains put together. So he doesn't describe all the pains that are going to happen. Everything's going to be hurting on them. If they want to have the sun, they can't see. You think I had trouble with my eyes and so forth, you know, and it burnt and so forth. How many of you ever just bumped yourself against an iron or you got a blister? You shattered. You shattered, you know. And the blister came up and boy, the first thing you want to do is bust that blister and let that juice run out of there and all this and that. So the pains, only God knows all these different kinds of pains you're going to have. This is why, if it sounds like I'm always so strict, this is the kind of stuff people's going to get if they miss the rapture. So, can a person be too strict? I'd rather be too strict and get people right than not to be strict enough and they end up going through this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, you can exchange strict with just being careful. You know, you got to be very precise. Just follow what God says to the best of your ability. Strict, careful, really means the same thing. I mean, God doesn't. I don't believe God intends to be harsh when He commands us to do something. It's just. It just seems like there's a lot to do and a lot to be aware of that can just sound unbearable. But that's why you just have to constantly develop the character of God, because that way following God and doing what He says will just come natural to you.
But,
It shouldn't have to be like, okay, I got this long list here. Am I doing this, and this, and...
I believe the leading of the Holy
Yeah.
Ghost as we
let
listen.
me interrupt here. God's got a whole list. You better do each one, and He is harsh. If you don't believe He's harsh, tear the Old Testament out, throw the book of Revelations away. Because without a spot, without a wrinkle, without a blemish, any such thing, you must be holy. Okay? Now, the point is this here. If we do not line up, we don't go. My Bible says that the righteous scarcely be saved. Where will the unjust and godly stand? The righteous. Okay? God is so strict. I just listened to a preacher today who was along with me, and I said, man, oh man. And his title of his message was, Am I doing enough for God? I wonder if we've heard something similar in these services. Are we doing enough for God? And he's trying to go back in the Old Testament and so forth and read the places where they refused to do what God told them to do. And the Bible says He slaughtered them. Slaughtered them. Now, getting with wisdom is to fear God. If we keep this mind picture that God's big old loving daddy sitting up there, yes, He is when we first come to God and so forth. But my case, after 38 years, He's not sugarcoating nothing for me, buddy. When I went to the Army and the airborne, this and that and so forth, that was severe training. And if you don't believe it, go to the New Testament where it talks about the harshness, the severity of God. The severity of God. That severe training, maybe I didn't have to go to Vietnam, but all my company did. The way I understand, they're all wiped out. But the thing is, that training pays off. Somebody say amen. Can we get too strict? Can we get too strict for God? Can we get too strict for God? Can we get too loose for God?
Yes.
Can we get too casual for God? Can we get lukewarm? And that's exactly what's going on in church. And that's why we don't see the gifts of the Holy Ghost and the power of God moving, or the glory and so forth. If His glory would come into most churches or our own homes, it would kill us. We could not stand in His glory. I mean, a priest how strict was he when the priest had to go in and offer up a sacrifice? He was so, had to be so perfect that they put a pomegranate on top of his robe and tied a rope to his feet. And when he walked into the Holy of Holies, he had to keep shaking his robe so they could hear the pomegranate shaking, because if it stopped, they knew God struck him dead, and they'd take the rope and drag him out. I wonder if the same God that was back then is the same God today. You see, it's nice to hear, you know, we don't have to get so shook up. I hear preachers constantly tell people on the radio and stuff. You don't have to be afraid of God. But my Bible says God is a killer. It's just, you know.
I really think a lot about, excuse me, about what you say, and I think of it myself as about choosing your company carefully in these last days, because your influences that you have around you, you may not know it, but they want to pull you down, because they don't really care, and maybe they just don't have that holy walk or conviction that you have. So why are they going to care? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Why are they?
Yeah.
Because see, they're walking in darkness. They're blind themselves. My wife was talking about Sister Rachel, you know, and how she's crying during the service and this and that. So
Rachel.
Huh?
Rachel.
Rachel. And you've heard just what I told you. Anyway, in these last days, you're going to have to choose your company very carefully. So I told somebody today, I said, just because you have Christian fellowship with other brothers and sisters does not mean it's good for you, just what you just said. Because what happens is, and that's why I said about Rachel, she don't need just Christian fellowship. She needs strong Christian fellowship that'll keep her covered, walking in that place of victory, overcoming powers. But if you get around casual Christians, they don't help you or nobody else. Not being mean about that girl that sang in tongues. It was pretty, but it was worthless. The Bible says it was worthless. She had to find herself. The Bible says, and those that heard it was a barbarian. They received nothing. Even though it was pretty, it cost nothing. Now, what do you want to do? Go to a church where everybody goes, yeah, and that's all you hear. It don't do nothing for you. You walk into a hospital and there sits a surgeon, so goes a doctor, and he tells you the bad reports and all this and that. You don't want to hear that. But God sends a prophet and he says, line up. He said, we've already read over the other chapter there, chapter before here, where the angel flew through the heaven preaching to these people. And that, we just read the verse, and they repented not of their deeds. They did not repent before, and now here they are, and they still won't repent.
Can I say something?
Yeah, baby.
Well, I agree with you. Well,
Mike.
the sinner is already judged. They're already judged, and he is going to do things. His wrath is going to come out upon him. But I feel in my heart, those that are truly his people and is saved and serving him, I do believe that they stay in a straight line with him. I don't think I don't even have to say I don't think. I know he didn't die in vain, that when he stretched his arms out, he loved us that much for the sinner and for us. And I don't think he's going to keep saying, well, I'm going to bash you, I'm going to rap you today, I'm going to rap you tomorrow, I'm going to keep beating on you, because a little boy or a little child and his father would slap him and hit him for no reason. That child is going to breathe and hate his daddy.
But the thing is, she's right what you said. But Jesus says, your son, God chastens those that he
Loves.
and if you're without chastening, and not a son of a
Bastard.
bastard. So that father and that mother can't beat on the kid all the time. But if they don't line up,
I mean, if the kid didn't do nothing,
if you don't,
God's not gonna be wrapping
it's like
himself
Brother
up.
Michael said, that was a good point back, I said about the three people that's house gave to, I said, why did the third one go to outer darkness? And he said, because he did nothing. I thought, yeah, he did nothing. So isn't that where the church stands today? I mean, overall, seriously, how many of us do really know those people that goes to church and so forth, and they're doing nothing? And yet Jesus told a story, a parable. So is he severe? Is he strict? He is. So I used to get mad when I first got saved. Oh man, the holiness preachers and all this and that and so forth, like I did, just try to shove it down my throat and all this and that. But then after a while, I heard a story one time. A man told his wife, he said, he went with the church, heard to come out and preached a hellfire and brimstone message. And he told his wife, he said, I'll never go back to church again. So almost 50 years went by. He refused to go to church. And she said, please go with me to church. There's a new pastor there. You'll probably like him. And she said, Jesus, please don't let the pastor preach a hellfire and brimstone message, because I was going to walk out before. If he does this time, he'll never come back. The young pastor came out, and guess what he preached? Hellfire and brimstone. The wife shut her eyes and she said, oh, Jesus, I know he's going to leave. And she heard him get up and walk out of the seat. And she said, where's he at? And she heard this crying at the altar. He's at the altar crying. On the way home, she said, why did you leave the church the first time and this time you went to the altar? He said, the first time the pastor acted like he didn't care if I went to hell. This pastor was pleading for me not to go to hell. So there's a different way of putting it. You dirty, rotten, stick in the center, you're going to hell. That sounds like you want me to go. But when you take the word of God, you say, please. I'm not beating you in the head, I'm not being mean to you, I'm just trying to tell you that if you don't have this operation, if you don't do your part, you're going to die. That's what that doctor told me. You got three choices. Do nothing, he said, you're going to die quickly. So, you know, can we be too coy? Can anybody be too coy?
No, never.
Without holiness and majesty of God.
Okay.
He's got his own. It's just beautiful.